Great news! FAA about to approve Starship launch from Texas. It almost sounds like a broken record now. The FAA delays its environmental assessment report. This is the fourth time it's happened this year. But all hope is not lost, because the good news is just on the horizon. The Federal Aviation Administration said on May 31, 2022 that after multiple month-long delays, it'll soon release a key document related to the fate of SpaceX's starbase in Boca Chica, Texas. The wait for mankind to reach Mars and beyond may finally be over. Today we'll talk about the FAA's environmental assessment report and their approval of the Boca Chica launch site in Texas. Is the wait finally over? Will the FAA finally approve the launch site this time without any more delays? Have these delays affected SpaceX's timeline? Well, stick around to the end as we answer these questions and more as we delve deeper into the workings of the FAA. So let's begin the video. The Federal Aviation Administration announced one more delay for the release of its environmental assessment of the SpaceX plans to launch its new Starship with a Super Heavy rocket on an orbital test flight from Texas. In a release, the FAA said it was planning to release its final programmatic environmental assessment on June 13th, 2 weeks later than its last target of May 31st. The FAA originally planned on releasing its programmatic environmental assessment, PEA, of the proposed flight at the end of 2021, but has issued a series of delays for the report after getting thousands of responses to the plan during a public comment period last year. The latest delay cites ongoing interagency consultation. Previous delays cited the sheer amount of public input. SpaceX made multiple changes to its application that require additional FAA analysis, the agency stated in a press release earlier this year. The agency continues to review around 18,000 general public comments. Elon Musk's plans to get an orbital test flight underway from the company's Southeast Texas launch facility can't move forward without the PEA. Even then, that review doesn't guarantee an okay for SpaceX to fly either, as Musk and others have stated that it could pave the way for a more intense environmental impact statement, EIS, that could delay any Texas launch plans beyond 2022. The FAA has cautioned that the company also needs to meet FAA safety, risk, and financial responsibility requirements. If faced with an EIS, Musk has said plans for the Starship launch may need to shift in the short term to Kennedy Space Center, where work continues on hardware to support the new rocket from KSC's Launch Pad 39A, the current home to SpaceX's Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launches. In the meantime, SpaceX posted images of the rollout of Starship 24 at the Texas launch site pad this weekend. It's the first time new Starship hardware is rolled out for testing since August 2021. Musk said in February he expects what would be the most powerful rocket to ever launch from the Earth still to have its first flight by the end of the year, even if it has to shift to Florida. To date, the company has flown prototype versions of Starship without the booster to about 6 miles altitude and attempted landings back in Texas, sometimes with fiery results. Those used only 3 or fewer of the new powerful Raptor engines. The fully working orbital version will be coupled with a Super Heavy booster with 39 Raptor engines, 33 on the booster and 6 on Starship. The plans for the next test flight, though, if it were to lift off from Texas, seeks to launch a stacked version of Starship and Super Heavy, have them separate, and return the booster to land on a SpaceX vessel 20 miles offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, while Starship achieves orbit for at least one trip around the Earth, and then lands in the Pacific Ocean. Because we have a lot of launches going out of the Cape, we didn't want to disrupt the Cape activity, the operational launches, with the advanced R&D of Starship, Musk said in February. So it was important to decouple the operational launches from the R&D launches. That's why we're at this location. 2022 is proving to be the busiest yet for SpaceX for its existing stable of rockets, including 22 launches through the first 21 weeks of the year. Musk has said that the company could hit as many as 60 in a calendar year, nearly doubling the 2021's record of 31 seen across KSC, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and Vandenberg Space Force base sites. So a shift to KSC for Starship testing could prove complicated. When it does launch, the Starship and Super Heavy combo would generate more than 16 million pounds of thrust. That nearly doubles the power of NASA's planned Artemis flights and more than doubles those of the Apollo missions. Immediate plans for Starship are for Starlink satellite delivery to add to the company's growing constellation of internet satellites, as well as to develop a version to assist NASA in getting humans back to the moon by 2025. Also upcoming is a tourist flight to orbit the moon funded by a Japanese fashion tycoon who's taking along several artists. The main purpose for its development, though, is to eventually create a self-sustaining colony on Mars. So, are you guys enjoying the video? We've probably mentioned the FAA and environmental 100 times in our video by now. We know it can get annoying, but what exactly are the environmental implications of this launch site? Watch on to get the answer, and while you think, do subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to receive instant notification about all our future videos. The report mainly deals with a group of endangered species living on the starbase property and in the coastal wetlands surrounding it. The area is home to 2 species of endangered wildcats, the ocelot and the jaguarundi, the northern Aplomado falcon, a pair of shorebirds, the piping plover and the red knot, the 4 species of sea turtles, the Kemp's ridley, loggerhead, hawksbill, green and leatherback also live in the area. The Kemp's ridley is the world's rarest and most endangered sea turtle. Yet risks of the Kemp's ridley and the other endangered species in the area can be mitigated by simple actions if expansion plans are approved, the report said. According to the Fish and Game's cover letter for the BCO, in the accompanying BCO, the service determined that the action as proposed is not likely to jeopardize the continued existence of the species listed above. The action area encompasses a relatively small portion of the range-wide habitat of each of the species addressed in the opinion, and a small portion of each species population. Actions to lessen impacts on the at-risk species include SpaceX-funded conservation of similar habitats elsewhere, fewer lights and less noise, monitoring how the species react to the upcoming changes, and making sure anomalies in the form of crashed spacecraft and the resulting debris removal disturb the local wildlife as little as possible. The species with the most to lose as SpaceX reaches for the moon and Mars is the piping plover. From the BCO, the proposed action will result in the direct loss of 446.27 acres of piping plover habitat and critical habitat from construction and operation and the corresponding conversion of wind tidal flats. The proposed action will also result in an impact on 903.67 acres of occupied piping plover habitat and critical habitat in Critical Habitats Units TX1. The red knot also stands to see a large portion of its local habitat impacted by the proposed expansion. However, the 446.27 acres of red knot habitat that will be affected should be offset by Fish and Game's plan to designate more than 680,000 acres elsewhere as critical habitats for the bird. The BCO describes a similar offset to protect the piping plover, which will see just as 0.4% of its total habitat affected by SpaceX's plans. Perhaps most concerning is the report's prediction of the impact on the extremely endangered Kemp's ridley sea turtle, which could see the death of up to 8 adults annually and the loss of 3 nests, along with as many as 330 hatchlings and eggs. Bottom line, SpaceX's starbase in Boca Chica, Texas has been waiting and waiting for an environmental assessment. The FAA says we'll have it in 2 weeks, around mid-June. So, do you think the FAA will finally give in and allow SpaceX to launch the Starship from Boca Chica? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to watch more of our amazing videos, then stay tuned.